let me show a way to deal with dock, which is a typical weed in clay soil, and especially compacted soils of any type. When it's next to a vegetable bed like this, so this is between the path and the vegetable bed, so we've got Cavallonero here. Obviously you can treat this as any other plant, and I've told you many times that whenever you prune a plant or harvest a plant heavily like this and you leave only the top leaves, you are sending signals via the soil network to the neighboring plants and strengthening them and stimulating them. So you can treat pruning or harvesting very heavily as a biostimulant action onto the neighboring plants. And so you can do the same for weeds. So one way to deal with this guy is to cut. Now with one hand it's going to be very difficult. Let me just give it a go. Should have a knife somewhere over here. Look, there's a slug there. So that's going to go in the field next door. There we go. So I've got my knife. So rather than remove it, so there's two options. One is to go in there and dig it up, dig as much of it as you can. And when you do that, you'll break the root at some point, because it's very hard to get the whole root out because it's very deep. And then this will come back, and that's fine. That's one way of doing it. The other way is to cut it there, or even a little bit underneath, a bit lower than the surface. Okay, so I could do it that way. Now with one hand it's quite difficult, so bear with me. There you go. So it seems disappeared, but obviously it will come back, and that's okay because I'm going to use this for compost. This is amazing composting material, and when this comes back I'm going to cut it again and again and again. So in a small garden this will become a compost source and a stimulation source for this guy here, and you will see that this guy, I've been doing that a few times, and this guy is very healthy also compared to some of its neighbours. And this might be due to many things, but I'm sure that a little bit of that is due to the constant stimulation that the dock does. The dock it's great food for worms, so there obviously are a lot more worm castings around the root zone of this guy, because the worms are attracted by the dock. The dock also attracts a lot of microbes because it's a very nutritious weed in terms of its exudates, of the sugars that it sends to the soil around the root, and also it decompacts the soil. So obviously this guy will benefit from the channels that the dock creates. And on top of that, whenever I cut, I make some compost and I give it another boost, another pulse of growth. So that's a quick tip for you about managing dock.